Hi, everyone, and welcome to the platform, a Tilted Crown production. I'm your host, Velma Alderson. Thank you so much for tuning in. And as always, I'm going to ask you just to do one thing for me, and that's touch that little button right there that says subscribe and subscribe to my channel. I am so excited that God has given me this opportunity and given me this platform to be able to do what He has called me to do. I started making this video earlier today, and I actually had several different things that I was talking about and several different blooper videos that I had done, and none of them felt quite right. So I said, you know what? Maybe I just don't need to do a video today. I just need to maybe do one tomorrow or later on during the week. So I ended up going out, had a wonderful evening. My son took me out for a mommy-son date and just relaxed and had a really good time. And when I came home, God spoke a word into me, and He reminded me that this is not about me. This is not for me. The one thing that I have asked God to do for me in my life, the one thing that I have asked God to always remind me to be is humble, to have a humble spirit, to have a servant's heart. And that's what He reminded me of earlier today, that I need to have a servant's heart. So when I got home, the Lord was speaking to me. We were having a conversation. And He asked me about my language. Now, for those of you who know me, you might be thinking, oh goodness, your language you can improve on. But that's not the language He was talking about. He was asking me, what language do I listen to? What tongues do I listen to? What voices do I listen to? And I started thinking about that, and I started thinking, what would my life be if the only voice I listened to was God's voice? If the only words I heard was God's words? If I was able to tune out the words of the enemy, if I were able to tune out the words of man and could only focus and lock in on the language that God spoke to me, who would I be? What would I be? Who would you be? And the more I thought about that, the more God continued to reveal to me. And He sent me to the book of Jeremiah 1:5. And I'm going to paraphrase because my disclaimer, I am not a minister. I am not a prophet. I am not a trained theologian. What I am is a woman who is in a relationship with the one true living God. I don't deal in religion. I deal in relationships, because religions will disappoint you. Religions will have you confused. Religions will have you doing things that God never ordained. But when you are in a relationship, you learn what's right. You learn what's accepted. You learn what's expected. So I came into relationship with God years ago. So I don't practice religion. I don't practice rituals. I practice relationship. So when I talk about God and when I talk about the Holy Spirit, I'm speaking of my personal relationship with God. And I'm speaking of my personal relationship with the Holy Spirit. So I don't want anyone thinking that, oh, she didn't quote that quite right, or, oh, she's just making that up. You can have your religion, and you can have your rituals, and you can have your traditions, because my relationship will outlast all of those things. But back to Jeremiah. Jeremiah knew at a young age. God spoke to Jeremiah at a young age and told him that he would prophesy to nations. God told Jeremiah, I knew you before you were formed in your mother's womb. Basically, I knew you before you even came into existence. That's deep. We have people that have known us our whole life, but no one can say they knew us before we came into existence. No one other than God. Jeremiah didn't feel like he was qualified. He didn't feel like he had the words to speak to the nations. He didn't feel like he had the words to represent God. And he was afraid. Fear is a very natural part of our makeup. God made us human. So never confuse fear with a lack of faith. You can have faith, but you're still human. And in your humanness, sometimes fear will rise up. But what faith does is allow you to act even in the face of fear. It allows you to take that step even though you're unsure of the outcome. It allows you to speak up even when everything in you is screaming to fall back. That's what faith does. Faith does not mean that you're not afraid. It does not mean that you're not unsure or confused. It doesn't mean that you're not going to have days when you don't know whether to go left, right, or stand still. What faith does is make you act in spite of fear. That's what faith does. So as I read Jeremiah, and I did not read the entire book of Jeremiah because that's not what the Holy Spirit told me to do. He told me to read 1 and 5, and that's what I did. So what I'm asking myself and what I want you to ask yourself, who would you be if the only voice you listened to was the voice of God? What would you do if you only did what God instructed you to do? No matter what people are saying, no matter what the circumstances are looking like, no matter what may be going on right in front of you, what would you do? How would you feel if you knew that every step you took was ordered by God? That every word you spoke was ordered by God? That everything you put your hand to was blessed by God? Who would you be? Well, the answer is very clear. You would be who God called you to be. So I guess the point of all this is that we are not called to serve man. We are not called to serve ourselves. We are called to be servants of the one true living God. We are called to be his mouth. We are called to be his hands. We are called to be his feet. You are the answer to someone's prayer. Right now, someone is praying for something that you have, something that you're able to give them, something that you don't even know. You don't even know. It could be a pair of shoes. It could be gas money. It could be a smile. It could be you saying, you look beautiful today. It could be you telling them you did a good job. Someone is praying for what you have to give. God knew you before you were formed in your mother's womb, before you came into existence. I challenge you to be who God has called you to be. Develop a language that you and God alone know. That when he speaks, you know his voice. I can be in a room with 1,000 children, but if my child cries out to me, I know the cry of my child. I don't think there's any mother who does not know the cry of her baby, whether that baby is a newborn or an adult. I only had to hear my baby cry one time to know his cry above that of all others. God knows the cry of his children. He knows the needs and the desires of his people. Let's make it personal. He knows the needs and desires that you have. He knows your cry. He knows your desire. So I challenge you, get into a relationship and develop a love language that only you and God know. And he will reveal to you who he already predestined you to be. Thank you for tuning in. Be blessed. And I love you. Peace.